Welcome to the BVI podcast. I hope you've all been doing well over the past 3 weeks. I think it is since we did a episode. That was because on the last scheduled date I had some family stuff because it was my birthday, so we decided to just push it forward a week. But we are here, as usual, with Johnny.
Hey guys, how's it going? Glad to be back here. Yeah, we not only did he have a birthday scheduled, me and him both, Declan as well as me, we're both in college, so there's just gonna be sometimes in weeks where we're just gonna be busy and we'll have to stretch it out a week or whatnot.
Yeah.
But either way, it's good to be back. I do want to throw out there for anybody that might be a developer or anything, if you want to come on the podcast, reach out to us. We'd love to have guests. Maybe you're developing a new program, or maybe you got a program that we're familiar with already. We'd love to have you guys. You just got to reach out to us. So just wait for the end of the podcast. Declan will give out the email, all that stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. But the good thing about waiting a little bit longer for a podcast is that a little bit more has happened, so we can give you some more information instead of coming on and saying, well, not a lot's happened. We have some stuff to talk about. We have some new discoveries, and hopefully they'll be interested to you. So we'll start out as we always do with a little discussion of TFM, what's happened in the development, because I know not all of you use the builds. Some of you are still on the old TFM, but I think in terms of what's happened, I think Andy's been working on some takeoff assist features for the future. I know that Jason, I believe, is sort of working on A2A support coming up soon as he continues to implement that. Obviously we have no time frame, but that is something that's on the way. And I think we've also got a few other features knocking around. We've got the idea of having a throttle percentage box, so you'll be able to type it up and type in whatever 50, the throttles will move to 50% power, so that will make it a bit easier for you in your prop aircraft mainly. So that will be useful. I think that's everything that's happened. Can you think of anything else?
Well, other than him working on, I think as they kind of go back and forth, I think they're also working on the flight plan, getting the flight plan implemented into the TFM. It's not necessarily, where they're doing it full force, or I think they're kind of working on it as they go. I can't think of anything else. I mean, I think the way they do it, when they come across something that they see to be important, they'll kind of say, okay, well, let's get that in there now. So, someone brought up, well, how long is the flight plan going to take? I don't know, because there is a lot to the flight plan. You don't have just...
I'm pretty sure they don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. You got the stars, the SIDS, you got the flight plan itself, you got the search. There's a lot of stuff along with all the code that goes with it. But if we can get an answer, we'll look for you and let you know. But I don't think there's no expected date or nothing.
Yeah, I've had a few questions
I've
about...
not heard no date.
No, I don't think they have a time frame. I've had a few questions about whether TFM will be able to allow initially for you to fly like you can with FSX Pilot in general aviation. You'd have to check with Andy and Jason, but I'm pretty sure the answer on that is no. That isn't the intention as of yet. The flight plan features are really for jets. The features that FSX Pilot has, where you can fly a traffic pattern or a touch and go, you can just sort of free fly, are not really going to be part of TFM, that you can set it up to fly such an approach. So for little props, FSX Pilot is still the way to go at the moment.
That's going to be the best way. And
Yeah.
I mean...
That's not
honestly,
to say TFM couldn't do that, but not yet.
But what I will tell you guys to not try to do, because it will mess you up, don't try to run TFM and the FSX Pilot program together, because that program alone it's a pilot itself. I mean, does everything you need it to do. So you can load a flight plan in the I think it's called FSX, isn't it?
FSX Pilot. Yeah, that's right.
But you can load the flight plan in there. If you guys want to know how to do, maybe on another podcast, me or Declan can go through and show you how you got to load the flight plan. But I do it all the time. But don't run them both together at the same time. The best way to do that is use FSX Pilot and use the original talking flight monitor, because that one's not going to tell your plane to do anything. It's just reading information.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, if you put, if you are running Talking Flight Monitor, you can use it to monitor your instruments, but if you put values into the autopilot and expect that it will work through TFM, it won't, because FSX Pilot doesn't use that system. But as I was saying to Johnny, the old TFM, before it was switched to this new set of builds, the old TFM beta is still out there. So if you want that, I believe it's still out there. I certainly still have it on my PC, so you can still use that, because that, as of now, does still have A2A support for the 172, 182, and the Bonanza, and the Cherokee.
Maybe we'll put the link up on the website too, just so it's up there. I need to get up there when I get some time, get some links put in for you guys. But yeah, the original Talking Flight Monitor works great with it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not going to interfere. You try to use the new TFM. I've tried it. It's not a pretty. It's not a good situation, because you basically got two programs trying to fly the plane at the same time, and honestly,
Yeah.
FSX Pilot does a good job with them planes. I mean, they fly them really good.
Yeah, the little props, it does good. So next on the list, we have a sort of a revival of two add-ons that we're going to talk about. One is FS Passengers, and one is PACX by TFGI Design, which I've been taking a look at. But I'll let Johnny talk about FS Passengers, because I remember this when I first started Flight Sim. So how's it been going with FS Passengers?
Well, so I dived into it I'd say I've been in it for about a month now, and it's I'm going to say, and you feel free to step in on this too, I'm going to say it's 70% accessible, 70-ish%. Maybe a little bit more, because actually you can do, for example, when you load your passengers, you start up your FSX or whatever, and then you go into the menu for FS passengers, and you load your flight. Well, then there's the only thing that's not accessible is when you load your passengers. It's like a slider, so it doesn't read it to you. You gotta, what's it called? You gotta like route your cursor to where when you're on the slider, and then left click it to get it to slide. But it works, and other than that, everything else is pretty accessible. You'll take off. I mean, you definitely gotta, if you mess up flying, it's going to catch on if you don't go in there. There's a lot of settings. I'm not going to get into all them settings today, because as you know, Declan, there's a lot in that program. I don't know how far you dug into it, but there's a lot of stuff inside that program that you can adjust. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't tried it in a good while, but I believe it is only for FSX, I should add. I don't think it works for P3D.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I don't think so. But I will tell you that it is, to me, it was worth it. I do use it. You get it's not real. You're not getting real broadcasts and stuff with like live ATC or anything, but you do get a simulated broadcast, and so you're getting you're hearing communications going across the channel, the radio or whatever. You also you get your passengers, you get to give them their food, their drinks, and you can make it work the way you want it to work. If you don't want it to pick up any damages, for example, when you land, when I first started with it, I had it turned on, and so if I landed too hard, you can bust a tire, you can mess up a flap.
Oh.
I turned all that stuff off, got used to the program, and then turned that stuff back on because I want to fly good. And as long as we keep everything turned off all the time, we don't know how good we're doing. You know what I mean? So I think it's worth it. You know, if you're like me and you like to adventure into these programs, which I do like to. I mean, sometimes you get them and they just don't work, and that's just kind of draw the straw. You know, you're not always gonna get a perfect program every time, but to me it was worth it. The audio's good. You get boarding. You can board the passengers, and then at the end it gives you like a rating. It'll say how the passengers like the flight. Like sometimes it'll come on there and say the passengers don't like the movies that we play on the airplane.
Don't know what you can do about that.
Or the last time I flew was just today. I landed this morning, and it wasn't like a bad landing. It's like a minus 463, but that was still kind of a bumpy landing. So the passengers had it on the report that the flight was overall good, 96%, but it was a little bumpy.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of programs out there like this. It's a very, because people want the passenger experience. So there was self-loading cargo a while back, which is still available, which also did the pretty similar things. You load the passengers. I think the difference with that was that you had customizable text-to-speech announcements you could make to the passengers to tell them what airport you were going to. But still, you got the passengers. You could feed them. You could entertain them. You could see how they felt about the flight.
I think the only difference between that program and the FS Passengers is on FS Passengers you actually run your own airport.
Oh, it's a great company. Okay.
Well, your own business or company. Right. And so the way that I've got it set, and I would recommend anybody, and I'll do some videos on it maybe to show people how to do it. I would set it up to where you can fly any plane and that they don't care what you fly, because if you put it on everything to be 100% realistic, it's not that easy. I mean, you start out with a small plane and you better know what you're doing, because if not, it's going to fail you. On one mistake, it will fail you. Or you can even kill your passengers can die.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of stuff to it, more than what I knew of until I started digging in. But I would tell people to try it out, at least give it a shot. I like it for the audio effects and stuff, and for the the whole flight process of it.
And SLC didn't have very good audio, I gotta say. It wasn't great, the passenger audio, which leads me on to PACX or PACX from TFDI Design. It got very laggy, SLC, after version 1.5. So you couldn't really see what your passengers were doing because it was so laggy with NVDA and Object Nav. So PACX was another one that TFDI, the people who make smart cars, bought out a while ago, and we were all really excited for it because it has some cool features. You've got this American flight attendant that can make the announcements for you and can call out your flight time through integration with SimBrief, and it can give you, it'll actually speak your departure and arrival airport names, and it's supposed to be a very natural sounding announcement, despite the fact that they are all recorded files. But it was not very accessible, and it was kind of rubbishy in terms of what you could do. But they've updated it quite a bit, and it's slightly more accessible. It doesn't lag like SLC. I mean, it's okay. You can load the passengers. You get the announcements, which sound pretty good. But I think the sort of area of this is a very saturated market, because we've got sim sounds, PACX, SLC, sort of FS passengers. There's a lot of add-ons that can do this sort of passenger thing.
The boarding audio for FS passengers sucks. I
Really?
mean, it's...
Oh.
Okay, I'm not going to say it's the worst, but it's... It's something you could definitely fix it, put in your own sounds, change out the sounds. You could probably make it a little bit better.
Mm. So I think it really depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for good announcements that are realistic, you know, that will actually read your airport, your flight time, you can, you know, see a lot of info about the passengers as they, because you can load it through SimBrief, you'll get the right number of passengers.
Wow.
PACX is probably good. Yeah.
What's the price for PACX?
It's something like 20-something bucks. I don't think it's quite value for money. I'd say it's a little bit much for what it can do, but it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Yeah, I think I paid $29 for FS passengers. I think that's what I paid.
That's similar. Yeah, it might even be a bit more PACX. I can probably
I'm gonna have to try
tell
it,
you,
especially if it goes off of if it reads something like you're talking about. I'm like, man, maybe I should have grabbed that one instead. Now, tell me about the passengers loading them. How difficult is it to get them to board? Do you got to use sliders to get them to board, or does it do it automatically?
There's ways you can do it. So you can manually enter your number of passengers, and I think it will get them from SimBrief as well. So because you have your SimBrief account details, it can pull your latest SimBrief plan, and it'll know the aircraft that you are supposed to be flying. I'm just double checking here. So you've got features here that say. It's announcements, so 700 sounds make every flight different. You'll hear flight number, time of day, outside temperature, destination. Passengers will react to your flights, which is sort of usual. So you have an announcement menu, which is pretty similar to SLC, where you can inform a passengers of delay or that you're going to be taken off. You can actually do that via speech recognition, apparently, if you would like. You can key up on the microphone and speak an announcement, which will, so if you say the word delay and things like that, it will register that there is a delay.
Wow.
So it does have quite a few cool features, which when it first came out weren't very well done, to be honest. It wasn't really finished, but now it's gotten better, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounds like there's some better features than what FS Passenger. It sounds like a good upgrade of FS Passenger, because it sounds like it's got more features and more options. So.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to check that out. Now, accessibility-wise, talk to us a little bit about that, Declan. As far as when you install it, do you run it each time when you open like FSX, or does it load automatically?
Yeah, it's a separate application. You run it. You have a bunch of settings that you can adjust as to how it will behave. If you give it your SimBrief details, it can pull that. You can see some information about the passengers, kind of like SLC, I believe. There's information about each individual passenger, which you can kind of object nav around if you like, to see what each passenger is on the aircraft. But I personally, that sort of stuff, it's more trouble than it's worth. I don't bother. I'm just more interested in. Yeah, I don't need to know out of all the 200 people on board what each person is doing at each time and things like that.
And how old they are and what their weight is. That's what it is on FS Passengers. Like,
oh wow,
their first name, last name, how old they are, and what their weight is. I don't care if they're 150 pounds or if they're 200 pounds. It doesn't matter to me. I don't got to figure that out.
I'm gonna look through every single one of them. So anyway, that's PACX.
Be like, sorry, ma'am, you got to go. You're a bit overweight, and you're
yeah, our
causing me
aircraft's
to
overweight.
lose
Get up. What
all
was
my
it that
fuel."
there was that United flight that was full? Was it United? And they ended up dragging a passenger off. I mean, yeah, we could maybe start dragging people off. BVI doesn't endorse that. So
Yeah, we don't have nothing to do with that.
no.
Oh wow.
So the next thing on
It's
the
all
list.
about adventure.
Yeah,
adventure
I mean,
stuff.
you've got to try all these different add-ons, right?
Because they're not. I mean, $29. I mean, yeah, it's not like $1, but it's not like $100 neither. So if it works, it does. If it don't, you're not out. A lot of money.
Yeah, I think if you have the only one that's a real problem is SLC. It's so laggy that it lags NVDA on other windows. But any of the other lot, the SimSound, the FS Passengers, the PAC-X, all of them will, you'll hear audio and audible effects. And on the last two, you will definitely see passenger information.
Yeah, and one more thing to add, just so you guys know, and I know there's been some talk about this probably with the lag and stuff, that, oh, well, if you use this voice, then it's not laggy compared to that voice. I'm going to tell you right now, it is just a laggy program altogether. I don't care if you're using NVDA, I don't care if you're using JAWS, it's laggy. It's not. If you want my honest professional opinion at this point, the way it's acting, I would not waste my time on it. Honestly, I just wouldn't, because it's too laggy. Who wants to wait, 2 minutes just to get from one button to the next?
SLCs,
Nobody.
yeah.
So, if you can deal with lag, then go for it. But don't get it thinking, oh, well, let's use a different voice. It won't be laggy. That is incorrect. It's laggy, period. So,
yeah.
Take it at your own risk.
Yeah, don't combine into us if you can't get a refund.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Why do they gotta mess with programs when they work good? When they work good,
well, yeah, that's the thing.
leave them alone.
If you're on an old version of SLC, don't update, because the older version was better before this rubbish.
Yeah, and I know there are probably features we probably didn't have on the old one, but it worked, and it was manageable,
Yeah. So the next thing on the list is the ILS auto land gauges. A lot of people complain about their landings being, too bumpy. They'll say that the Airbus is a much better plane to land the A320. And the reason that is because it has an auto land gauge in it, which will automatically idle the power and flare the aircraft as long as you're on an ILS. And it does that for you every landing, and you get a good landing rate. Well, there is actually a folder out there on flyaway simulations called I think it's ILS Auto Land Gauges. If you put that in and you look on flyaway, you'll find it. This folder has a whole bunch of these gauges. They're XML files that go into your panel folder. I'll talk about how to install them in a sec, but it has a whole bunch of these gauges made for all different aircraft, the 737, the 74, all these different aircraft, CRJ, you can use any of them really, the 73 gauge if you like. So the good thing about these is they're customizable. But what it will do is it will do exactly the same thing as the Airbus gauge. It'll flare and it'll idle the power. So all you got to do to install it is any normal gauge procedure. You take the .xml file that you want to install, maybe it's for a 737, you put it in your panel folder, and then you go to your panel.cfg, and in the readme of the gauges folder that you will get from Flyaway, there are 2 lines of text that you have to put in to your panel.cfg. So you first go down to the main window section, and you go to the bottom of the main window section of panel.cfg, and you've got to number these gauges correctly. So if the last gauge is say gauge 30, You paste these two lines of code in, these text, and you change the digits. So you make it gauge 31, gauge 32. And then you're going to go down to the other section of the panel.cfg, which is you can use the find function of MVDA to locate this. It's going to be the virtual cockpit. You want to add the gauges to the virtual cockpit as well. vcockpit01, I believe it's called. You go to the bottom of that section and you do the same thing. Paste the lines, change the numbers, and make sure you paste them exactly as is in the README, and you'll be good to go. When next time you're on an ILS, you watch your aircraft flare and touchdown, and you will get a very nice landing rate.
So you put it in the 0 at the top, the 0 window.
Yeah.
At the at the top, but at the bottom of the list of numbers, like whatever the last line is for that window.
Yeah.
And then you do it in the virtual.
Yeah, you do it in the virtual
list
cockpit as well. Yeah, you put it in both.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little demo video at some point, but it's pretty simple. Once you get the hang of it, you do it once, you'll be able to do it. So then, if you really want to be adventurous with this, and you have an aircraft that you want to customize this gauge for, you can go into the XML file that you pasted into your panel folder, and you can see at the different altitudes what the gauge will do. So you might see between 45 and 30 feet, it's going to reduce the vertical speed to -350 fpm. Then it might say set throttle 1 or something like that, set throttle 0. That's talking about disengage the throttle. And you can customize this a lot. You could go into great detail. So maybe you do a landing, you say, hey, it didn't flare enough. It should have flared more for this aircraft that I've put it in. You can go and you can you can make the vertical speed in the XML less. You might change to like -200 or negative whatever, and you can then have an even more soft landing with an even better flare if it didn't flare enough. So it's very customizable. Wow. You don't have to do that. This guy who made them gave you a lot of presets. He gave you pretty much most major airliners. Some of the CRJs and little regionals are not included, so you'll just have to sort of go with it and hope for the best. Just put like a 737 gauge in and see how it goes.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's relatively simple, and for those of you who are on BVI and have trouble landing, that could be something very helpful for you and us, so we don't get any wrecked aircraft.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we'll probably put that folder on the website, but if not, it's very easy to find it. It's on Flyaway Simulations, as I say. It's something like ILS Autoland gauges.
Okay. Yeah, on Simviation. Got it.
Flyaway Simulation.
Or Flyaway. Okay.
Yeah, Flyaway. Alright, so that's that covered. We've talked about that. Let's do a little bit about BVI Virtual first before we move on to the last thing. So BVI Virtual is doing well. I just want to remind you all that the policy document is available, and there's a few things that need to be followed. One, you have to fly every 30 days or every month. If you don't, if it's for a reason like work, then that's fine. If there is no reason, then you will just be removed from the airline, especially if I can see you've been flying with other airlines but you haven't bothered to do a flight with BVI. It's very simple. You do a 30-minute flight or something like that. I'm not asking you to do a long haul if you haven't got time. You just do whatever you can do, but as long as you do one flight a month, then even
if it's a short flight, like Declan said, even if it's a 20-minute, 30-minute flight, just pick a shorty.
Yeah, anything's fine.
Because it's all about the airline's got to make money. If you're not flying, it's not about just you making money, but the airline's not making money. If the airline's not making money, it could if we get 6 or 7 pilots doing this, it could put us out of business real quick.
Yeah, if we don't fly, our reputation goes down. and then you lose money, I believe, for not flying. You lose money if someone books a flight and then doesn't do the flight. So,
I think you lose value too, as far as like when you might do a flight, say to from the U.S. to Canada that originally was like a $60 million deal, and then all of a sudden it goes down to $40 million because of that reputation.
Yeah. And we want to continue to buy aircraft. We want to continue to expand our fleet. We've got a good fleet at the moment, US and Europe and international, but we hope to increase our Canadian fleet as we get more pilots. We hope to increase, maybe our Asia fleet. So we could go all the way out and spread into every continent here, but we have to obviously have the money to buy the aircraft and maintain aircraft.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that, sometimes things happen, whatever, but if, for example, like I had set up a flight, and, some stuff came up, I couldn't do the flight, which wasn't a big deal, because if you cancel it, don't let it just run out, but if you cancel it, or if you tell someone, one of the managers, and they cancel it, it's completely different than if you just let it run out and you don't do nothing. Then it will cost on both ends. But I've seen these weird flights being put together that just don't make any sense. Like, build a flight, but if you build it, especially if it's a weird flight, do the flight or don't build it, because I've seen some silly ones. I don't know about you, Declan, but I've seen a couple that just didn't make any sense. Like, you couldn't, like, there was a couple on there, and I just picked one that was already put together, and I went to fly it, got up in there and realized just don't even have a runway for the plane that I'm flying. Like, it was for, like, small planes only. I was never going to land that plane there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I didn't realize that until I got up in the air.
So if you're making a route, put the right, don't do a route into a regional airport and say, any aircraft can fly it. Set it up so that, maybe a regional plane could do it, but you don't have a 777 or something trying to fly into the...
Yeah, just research the flight before you build it. That way you know what you're putting together. Even if you're just building a couple extras for people to fly, no big deal, but just make it fit, match the planes, Yeah. 'Cause that does make a difference.
Yeah, and the other thing
we
is
want everybody to
fuel.
have fun. We're not complaining. We want you to have fun and
we're
enjoy
not going to be
yourself,
kicking people off. That's not the thing.
We got to have rules and things to kind of make us do better. Not really, think of it as constructive criticism. It's not, nothing personal. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fuel, so do check how much fuel is on the aircraft before you fly it. Have a little look and see what it says on the fleet page of FS Airlines, because I've noticed some people landing with about 6,000 kilograms or whatever that is in pounds of fuel, probably well over 10,000 pounds.
Yeah, that's like 15, 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
So... And the reason is not because they've taken the wrong amount of fuel. They've probably taken enough and just about right. But there was already some fuel on that aircraft. So remember, these aircraft essentially are saved. So when you load to FS Airlines, the client, when you load it up, if there was fuel on that aircraft previously, it will transfer that fuel onto your plane. So you have to be careful that you don't end up with a whole ton of extra fuel that you don't need.
Yeah, and if you get in the air and you realize, oh crap, I've got too much, don't, like, you got a couple options you can do, and I've with Declan, I've practiced holding. I've done that, manual holding. Either do that or slow your flight down. You can adjust it one way or the other to at least do, either slow down your flight, even if it's going to take you an extra hour, because it does cost, the more fuel, the more expensive and it can get expensive, especially in the big planes. So either do like a manual holding or slow down your flight or something.
Yeah, absolutely. You figure it out. If you have to hold, if you have to, you know, not do the flight, not submit the flight, um, you know, because of that, then maybe try and do it's always good to check before you fly. If you check and you say, actually, I need to do a longer flight because there's already some fuel on this aircraft, then that's better than doing a short flight and then realizing when you're coming into land that you've got way too much fuel on board still.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is kind of good because it takes us to something that happened yesterday on VATSIM that I wanted to point out, which I spoke about on the WhatsApp group to people. And this is, we're coming up to Cross the Pond on VATSIM, and what Cross the Pond is a big event where people fly from one side of the Atlantic to the other, this time US to Europe. You go on VATSIM, you sign up, and you select 3 slots that you want to do, departure and arrival, and a time that you want to take off. It's usually very early morning in the US, kind of midday in Europe. And you do the flight with a whole bunch of people on the network. There's full ATC, it's really cool. But it's very busy. And that often means when you are coming into land, you may be asked to hold, or you may be asked to divert at a worst case scenario. So FS Tramp allows you to hold and divert, and I want to talk a little bit about how you would do that. In terms of the holding, normally you would look up on the charts where to hold, but ATC will tell you a waypoint, and they will say hold at this waypoint, usually as published, they'll say, which means look on the chart. We can't really look on the chart to get the holding information, so you're just going to have to go with what Tramp inputs, or if the controller isn't crazy busy, you can probably ask them. But let's say they give you a hold, you go to the waypoint in the tree view, and you go to your context menu, and you're going to go to holding, and you'll see some information about the inbound course to the holding. As I say, you can just leave that as is, and you'll see something about how the length of the legs basically in minutes. So imagine you're flying a racetrack, you're going round and round, each leg will be a certain amount of minutes. So you set that up, and as you approach the waypoint about, maybe 2 miles away, you tick the fly holding box, and you have to have your speed reduced already, usually to about 230 knots. That's usually a good area to go. Can be a little bit less or more depending on your altitude. And you'll enter a holding, and you'll be there till ATC clears you out of the hold. When they do, I would recommend just to turn flight plan off, turn flight plan back on, and you'll be on your way going to the next waypoint. Now
it'll pick right up.
Yeah, absolutely. Tramp should pick it up. If it doesn't, you can always help it out and give it a flight plan from here to the point. So hopefully that will have resolved the problem and you'll be able to land. Yesterday I was flying into an event and we had to hold for an hour, and I didn't have time really to hold for any much longer because I had to go and do something afterwards of the flight. So I said to the controller, how much longer is the holding going to be? And they said, well, another hour you're going to be holding. So I said, okay, let's try and divert. So they gave the controller was really great. I have to give a shout out to the German ATC, and they said you can go to this airport, Hanover, Echo Delta Victor, I think it was, something like that. I think it might have. Oh no, sorry. I think it was Echo Delta Delta Victor. Anyway, whatever it was Hanover Airport, and so I confirmed that, and you go to the find box basically in Tramp, the find box at the top, and you can enter an airport ICAO code, and then you tab to the search results list, and you'll see the airport in that list. And what you want to do is, so you haven't done anything to Tramp at this point, you've not turned flight plan off, you've not deleted anything, you will still probably be flying around the hold at this point. You will click on add to flight plan on the context menu of the airport that you just found, and this will basically add a second stop in your flight plan. So your old plan will still be at the top. You'll still have your destination airport you were originally going to go to with all the stuff that you had prepared. but right below that destination airport will be your diversion airport.
Now, is that all one list, or is it in two different
It's
list
all
boxes?
one list. So it goes,
Okay.
It's going to go right at the bottom of the main waypoint tree view.
Okay.
And then what you can do is you can do the usual control tab and get to the stars. Maybe the controller will give you a star. You can control tab and you can get to the approaches tab, so the ILS. In my case, the controller said, okay, I'm going to give you vectors. So he gave me headings, and I put his headings in. And then as he was vectoring me, he said, which runway we'll be landing on ILS. It was ILS 09, right. So I went to the very bottom of my waypoints list to where the diversion airport is. I control tab twice, got to the ILS section and added the approach. And then to get Tramp to actually go onto your diversion bit of the plan, you're going to have to do a flight plan from here on your first approach waypoint. So it'll be probably right at the bottom of your waypoint tree view, just above the airport. Maybe there'll be a couple of waypoints for your approach, and you want to flight plan from here on the first one. So Tramp then goes direct.
After you select your runway, or do you select the approach, fly from here first, and then your runway?
I would add it all in first. So if you get a star, add the star. If you get an approach, add the approach.
And do fly from here.
And do fly from here on whatever the first point is. Yeah. Because
Gotcha.
Otherwise Tramp will still think you're flying to your old destination airport, if you see what I mean. It's not going to recognize
gotcha.
You diverted. So then it tunes the ILS because I'd sent it to the first approach waypoint and it was a normal approach. We flew in, got the ILS and landed, and that's it. We diverted. It was just like a normal landing.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully you'll never have to do that, but it's good to know that it's there if we ever needed it.
Yeah, it's something different. Maybe you just want to do it for fun and do a divert, just practice. That's the best way, is practice before you come across that situation.
Yeah, online.
Learned that the hard way.
Right.
Practice before you get it on VATSIM. It's happened to me, and it's no fun getting something new on VATSIM, and you're like, oh, well, how do I do that?
Because if you're on a flight and you decide, maybe you're just in a little jet or something and you're flying with Tramp and you don't really know where you want to go. You've got a plan, but you're just flying along on a heading. Because of course with FS Tramp, you don't really have to have a flight plan if you don't want to. You can just insert a waypoint, insert an airport, and insert another airport and fly directly to it if you really wanted to. You can pretty much choose any airport you like in that find box. You can just fly around and land as you
Land
wish.
even without a flight plan, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Tramp
that.
is quite good in that way. Yeah. And that will be in TFM, I should say. That find will be in TFM, so the same functions will apply.
Okay, so they can use it in the TFM. It works in TFM?
Well, it isn't in there yet, but I know Andy said in the podcast that he is going to have, after the flight plan tab, I think it's going to be, in there, there's going to be a find section where you can search for an airport.
Yeah. And, guys, speaking of VATSIM, just to throw this out there, as we all know, we are the new faces on VATSIM right now with BVI or whatever. We're new faces, but people starting to recognize us. And I've seen it where some will use one call sign and others will say, they'll say it a different way. If a controller doesn't recognize you by the one way and they say, this is what you need to use, just use it. Don't throw a fit about it. Don't make it like it's an argumentative thing. Because we got to understand they're new at seeing us just like we're new at coming across them with the new name, the new ID or whatever whatnot, that you go by. Because what is it originally that we go by, Declan, that you was telling people to normally use when you're giving out your,
So you put in BVI and the call sign is vision. I would put that in your flight remarks, and then if the controller doesn't pick it up, you can prompt them, and say our call sign is vision, and they should get it, and then they'll start calling you vision.
I've seen there's probably 2 or 3 that's pretty common. I'm trying to remember the areas. I'll bring it up next time on the podcast, but they recognize it as being vision, and I'm like, okay, no big deal. It's we they are the controllers, so it's not like they're asking us to give us our plane to them or something. They want to recognize us, so hey, if they're recognizing us, let's just do what we got to do to make them happy. It's not a big deal.
So they should call you vision, and we can only do so much to make them call you vision. So if they call you Bravo Victor India, or whatever it may be, maybe they just they ask you what the call sign would be. There's no need to get irritated.
Vision Jet.
Vision Jet. Oh, okay.
Vision Jet or something once, and I'm like,
yeah, that's fine.
I don't know about the jet part, but I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, Vision Jet, that's okay, that'll work.
It's close enough. They got the right words. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't really, apart from me, as I've already done, notifying VATSIM, hey, we're a virtual airline, we exist, this is our code. I know that the controllers have a database that they can look us or look up call signs on, but I don't know if that database has virtual airlines. I don't think it does, because any any pilot can log on with any call sign. There's nothing on VATSIM that says you can't make a call sign up. I could literally go on now, make one up. I could log on as Declan123 if I wanted to. They can't stop me if I say that's my call sign. That's my call sign, as long as it's not offensive or anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I even had one controller say that he had heard the name Vision before, as if guys, there might be another airline out there or something small that was called Vision that went through before. So if they say, hey, are you this person? Mistakes happen. Like you said, Declan. I don't know what database they use, so they might be on a outdated database. They might not. It really, like you said, you could use anything on there. It could be John 101. They're not gonna, they're not gonna know any different. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, they can't stop you, because the code of conduct just says if your call sign is offensive, then you can be disconnected. If it's not, then, well, you can do whatever you like, really.
Yeah, and I would like to see more of us getting on VATSIM. I try to get on when I can. Of course, college and all that, I don't have as much time as I normally do, but the more we're on there, the better, honestly. I mean, if you're not good at it, don't be scared to do it. If you mess up, they're not gonna cuss you out or tell you to get lost. I mean, they're gonna correct you, but that's what we need. We need corrected. We need to be told what we're doing wrong so we can do it right. So, fly, guys, VATSIM away.
Yeah, you read the documentation and get on, but you got to be confident. You got to have confidence in what you're doing. If you are concerned about getting spawn clearance, if you are rude or if you are nervous, being nervous is natural, but it's difficult. There's a balance. If the controller's not called you back, sometimes you got to get on the frequency and say blah blah blah. Call sign, we're fully ready. Can we, are we cleared, or can you give me a time estimate? Sometimes you got to do it, and then you're also not going to get up on frequency and start yelling. Tell me when we can spawn. It's a balance.
I don't think we've talked about it now. I can't. We could do this on the next podcast. There's a program that was really good at. It was kind of like a VATSIM, but it was. What the heck was the name of it? I know you probably used it before, and it gave you like an automated, controllers and stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was a program where you had to add your flight to it and stuff, and then it would tell you when you was clear.
PF3 maybe. There's a whole lot of them, but I think it's PF3.
That one was good for learning too, but I think it kind of was finicky though on setting up. But just practice.
PF3 doesn't have SIDS and stars, unfortunately. There is this Pro ATCX. There's another one.
That's what I'm thinking of.
You're thinking of that one?
ATCX.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. I don't like Pro ADCX. I had bad experiences with it, but that was a long time ago before we knew a lot of the stuff and before we had the latest TFM.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't accessible as well, so that's why I never used it.
It is accessible. You can definitely use it. But I had problems with it would always vector me way off and Tramp would shut off flight plan and we never got the ILS. But that was like months and months ago. And PF3, so whatever you can afford, guys. I mean, Pro ADC or PF3 are good options. Especially, I like PF3 personally. I don't like Pro ADC at all. But it gives you, none of them are perfect. They're not VATSIM or real world phraseology, but they give you an idea of good. Because what PF3 will do is it gives you vectors on approach. So it's going to give you a descent, it'll give you a lot of vectors, and it'll get you into the ILS, and it gives you some good practice of how to catch the ILS on headings and also manage your altitude and speed, which is something that's really vital for VATSIM. I feel like a lot of blind pilots just haven't quite got the hang of how to get the ILS on headings and do your altitude, because sometimes Tramp is just bad and it doesn't get you the right altitude, and you got to intervene and you got to take over the altitude for yourself or enter a new vertical speed, these kinds of things.
Yeah, and then there's one other thing I wanted to throw out there just while we're already on the topic of all this stuff with learning and stuff. I want to remind people, if you're a new pilot, anytime that you update your Navigraph or what's the other one called? Your Navigraph or your
like your sim data through the free one or the paid one. Yeah,
make sure you run your runways file every time you upgrade, because I've forgotten to do it, and just by not doing it on one little upgrade made that much of a difference to where I was missing my runway every single time. Did the upgrade, did my runway, and it worked. So, do that. Maybe we get more time next time. Maybe we can go in more detail about the runways, but it's pretty straightforward. You just run the what's it called? Make runways, I think, .exe or something like that.
And it creates the files, because TFM and the runway awareness RAS system also, both of them rely on that data. Yeah,
and so you got to keep that updated, because it will cause you problems, especially if you don't update it at all. You're eventually going to get to where you're just you go on VATSIM, you're going to have problems.
Oh yeah, after a couple months it'll be out of date, and it might tell you on a taxiway or something when you're actually on a runway, and that's not
They'll
good.
They'll be telling you to go to runway 13, and you're going to be like, well, I don't have a runway 13. Well, that's because you're not updated. So that stuff seems to always change. Not physically, but data-wise, it does change. So, just make sure you run your update.
Yeah. Right, I think that will about do it, unless you got anything else. I think that's it.
No, I think that's it. And, like I said, next time, man, maybe, again, if you're a developer, or maybe even, we would like to get any of your perspectives on the other side of it as developers and stuff. If there's something that you would like to learn from us, or, we kind of collaborate together and learn from each other, we'd love to have you on. Just send an email. Again, Declan will give that info out here in just a second. And either he'll receive it and read it, or I'll read it. Either way, we'll get it. We'd love to have you. Obviously, we got to know who you are and what it's going to be about. We're not just going to be like, yeah, okay, we'll have you on. Let's meet this time. We got to know who you are. So
yeah. So if you send an email,
that's all I got, man.
Absolutely. Yes, if you send an email to bvipilotspodcast@gmail.com with any suggestions, please don't send spam. We got one from a very nice idiot the other day requesting. They said the subject was something like, "I saw your website. It is bad design. I would like to redesign your website." Yeah, okay. I don't know what website.
I've seen that.
It's hilarious, yeah.
Spam email.
Yeah.
We're not going to pay you to do anything, so we're doing just fine with our own fingers.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks anyways.
Maybe not the most graphically pleasing website, but that's not really the point of it, to be honest. It's informational, that's
exactly.
it.
Information and accessible. That's all
yeah,
that matters.
and accessible, yeah. This idiot probably wouldn't make it accessible, they'd make it worse. So yeah, email us there with suggestions. If you'd like to come on, emails with your idea, and we will, of course, get back to you. BVI Pilots is on Twitter. We post about our new podcasts whenever they come out, and any new, major updates. So check us out on there. And bvipilots.com is the website, I believe, where you can find, some files. You can find updates. You can find podcast info for the Spreaker. But of course, we're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. All these services. So just ask your smart speaker even to play the latest BVI Pilots podcast, and I think it should pull it. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode.
Sign up if you're going to go to the website.
And make an account on there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As always, BVI Virtual. You can find us on FS Airlines if you would like to do that and get involved. The more pilots we have, the better. So we will see you in 2 weeks, which will be mid-November, and we will see what is going on then in the world of flight sim, if there's anything new.
Gosh, November! Can you believe that? Wow.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah,
it's years, man. It's crazy.
And then you look back on this year and go, what did I even do? Oh, yeah, I spent most of it in lockdown. That's what I did, yeah.
What did we accomplish?
I did the BVI podcast, yeah.
I even forgot a couple of times that this was the year that I had graduated with one of my degrees, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I graduated this year.
Yeah, right.
But, but yep, it's good seeing you guys. Y'all have a good day, and we'll talk to you in a few more weeks.
Absolutely. We'll see you. You have a good week.